Welcome, everybody. I'm Dianna Cohen, co-founder of Plastic Pollution Coalition. Thank you for joining our November webinar, Plastic-Free Presents, Mindful Gifting for Healthier Holidays. Plastic Pollution Coalition is a nonprofit communications and advocacy organization that collaborates with an expansive global alliance of organizations, businesses, and individuals to create a more just, equitable, and regenerative world free of plastic pollution and its toxic impacts. Today, we have 4 poll questions to get a sense of who's joining us. Each question will only appear for 20 seconds, so please answer swiftly. Where are you joining us from today? Please select one. Let's move on to poll question number 2. What best describes the sector in which you work? Well, it looks like a lot of folks on the webinar today are from the NGO world, many people from other as well, but we have people from corporations, businesses, education and academia, government and policy, the media, and even from research. So great, thank you. Let's go to poll question number 3. How challenging is it for you to find plastic-free gifts for the holidays? It looks like 59% of the folks on the webinar today are saying, please help, this is a challenge. But 36% are saying that they're finding good plastic-free gifts for friends and families and family members, and 5% are saying it's easy. So we want to learn from you guys today, Manasa and Alejandra. Let's go to poll question number 4. What are your primary go-to plastic-free businesses? And for this answer, please select all that apply. I'm having that experience too, plastic-free businesses at farmers markets. Interesting. Also refill shops, bulk aisles at local markets, grocers and shops, online eco-friendly shops, that's 49% are finding them there. Plastic-free shops in their town, 21% of us are finding them there. And plastic-free shops online, 42%. Really interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. We appreciate it. Thank you for participating in the poll questions. So today we're going to hear from Alejandra Warren, co-founder and executive director of Plastic Free Future, a California-based nonprofit organization dedicated to the reduction and elimination of plastic pollution through promoting reusable alternatives and focusing on outreach to systemically excluded communities. And we're going to hear from Dr. Manasa Mantravadi, a pediatrician and founder and CEO of Ahimsa, a company making beautiful and durable stainless steel meal trays and taking plastic off the dinner table. And to kick things off, I'd first like to welcome Dr. Manasa Mantravadi. She is a board-certified pediatrician. After the American Academy of Pediatrics highlighted the growing evidence of chemicals in plastic harming children's health, she launched the world's first colorful stainless steel dishes for kids, Ahimsa. Manasa, we're so happy to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me this evening. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see where everyone's from. I'm excited to be here tonight. As people are wondering, what is a pediatrician doing making dinnerware for kids, and how does one make that transition? And so the very kind of short story is that I, as a pediatrician, learned in 2018 from a formal policy statement from the American Academy of Pediatrics that plastic is not just bad for the planet, but it is also harmful to children's health. And in 2018, the AAP, which is a group of 67,000 pediatricians, came out with a policy statement talking about chemicals in plastic being harmful for children's growth, their hormones, their brain development, and they recommended to avoid using plastic to serve and store food and rather use glass or stainless steel. And so truly my story starts with knowing that I'm Indian. We have used stainless steel at the dining table for centuries. And so knowing that we've been doing this for generations, I thought, oh my gosh, how can it be that we have a medical policy and new science that says this, yet we have an industry that is not providing the solutions. And so there's a big disconnect between what pediatricians were recommending to families and what parents could then go out to follow their pediatrician's advice. And so that's why I launched Ahimsa, a line of stainless steel dinnerware for kids. And so this is the formal statement from the 2018 American Academy of Pediatrics. They specifically discussed food additives and children's health. So very specifically that chemicals in plastic interfere with the child's hormones and thus really interfere with their growth and brain development. Okay, so how does this all work? Most people, when they think about hormones, they think of adults, right? They think about fertility, they think about metabolic obesity, but really hormones are just as important, if not more, for kids. So when we talk about chemicals in plastic, you may have heard of the term endocrine disrupting chemicals. Really what that means is that they are hormone disrupting chemicals, and the chemicals in plastic really look like our natural hormones. The endocrine system is really just a series of glands. You may have heard of like thyroid or pancreas or ovaries. All of these are different glands through our body. They produce hormones, and they essentially are the critical pathway to which our organs regulate themselves. So it's really that hormone pathway is essential for normal development in the brain and body at all ages, particularly for kids at a very young age. And so what does endocrine or this hormone system have to do with plastic? So I just told you how crucial hormones are for children's health. So for example, when a child is born, they're not fully developed, and many of their organ systems are still developing in those early childhood years. And that has a lot to do with these hormones. And so if you look at this picture here, where it says normal, think about the hormone as essentially a key and the receptor on the organ being this lock. And so when that normal hormone goes in and unlocks it, it basically allows this organ to do a certain thing. So for thyroid, it may be produce thyroid hormone and allow a child's brain to develop. For the pancreas, for example, it may say produce insulin so you can process glucose. And so that's what normally happens. But what happens in endocrine disrupting chemicals found in plastic is that I'm a pediatrician, so we like lots of graphics. So you can see this other really bad guy hormone. That's chemicals in plastic. That's what's called an endocrine disrupting chemical. It mimics or looks like our natural hormone. And so when it goes in, it really essentially doesn't allow our normal hormones to do the normal things. This causes really an interruption in the signaling pathway and wreaks havoc on our end organs. So abnormal signals can affect children in terms of growth, in terms of immunity, brain development, cardiovascular health, normal puberty, and even future fertility. So you can see that this is a really big deal, and it's happening at crucial phases of growth and development in a child. And, this is not new. We have been here before. Right now, we talk about plastic harming the environment, and now we know it's harming health, and we know specifically it's harming the health of children. And unfortunately, more than 80% of children's feeding products are made of plastic. And unfortunately, most of children's products, the toys they use on a daily basis, are also made of plastic. And but have no fear, because I feel very hopeful, because we have been in this same situation in the past. So there has been a parallel. So when we found out lead was harmful, we started to do something about it. Legislation changed, medical policies changed, the industry changed, and we are on a pathway forward. Plastic is now painting this similar picture. So again, when you think about it, it makes sense. When we find out something is bad for kind of the greater public health, we have to do something about it. So in the lead situation, for example, we found out that exposure to lead really produced cognitive and developmental delays in children. And so years later, when we had a plethora of evidence truly science led the charge in reforming legislation, which reformed industry. And so lead was removed from gasoline, from the paint. And now this is a staggering fact. We have a generation of children that are 4 to 7 IQ points higher than the generation of children before them. So that's what's really happening with plastic today. In 2012 and 13, there was a big push to remove BPA, bisphenol A, from baby bottles and sippy cups and infant formula. While that is a good step, it is actually not at all addressing the problem, because BPA is just really one of the many harmful chemicals under the same family. So think about all these chemicals under the same umbrella. And what we call these substitutes, BP, F, and Z, and B, they're all what we call regrettable substitutes. So remember, these are synthetic materials made by man, and we are now finding these kind of chemicals, bisphenols, in our system, in our urine, in our blood. They're not supposed to be there. And so just saying something BPA free is not actually addressing the problem at all. We need to concentrate on the chemicals and the classes of chemicals in these plastic products. And so that's when, in 2018, the AAP released this policy statement saying, hey, families, we're not going to, we have some work to do. We got to get legislation on board. We got to improve the industry. But in the meantime, things that you can do is to use alternatives to plastic, such as glass or stainless steel. And so I decided, with all my free time, well, let me just fix this problem and offer the solution. And so I decided to really use my knowledge in pediatrics to practice pediatrics at scale and offer the more safe, sustainable option for kids at the dinner table. And so in that policy statement, they really did talk about how to limit your exposure to plastic. Again, good news is that, well, I'll give you the bad news first. The bad news is that we're finding these circulating levels of bisphenols, even in fetuses. That means when mom is exposed, we're finding it in circulation of babies. And so really the detectable level of synthetic plastic chemicals in the human body is 0. Like, we shouldn't have it in our body because it's not man-made. It's not made by our body. It is man-made and synthetic. And so we are seeing the levels that are far higher than previously thought. But the good news is that by decreasing your exposure to these chemicals, when they've studied bisphenol in urine, for example, when you decrease your exposure, those levels in your body can drop dramatically within just 3 days. So I want everyone to understand that and feel very empowered that these small, simple steps can lead to big results for your family. And so in addition to really avoiding plastic, here were some other main takeaways from the 2018 American Academy of Pediatrics. So limit these EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals, by number 1, eating fresh produce. So instead of processed foods or canned foods, because not everybody knows this, but those cans all have detectable levels of bisphenols in the lining. So just eating fresh already helps. Number 2, if you do have to use plastic containers, do not put them in the microwave or dishwasher, because these chemicals are leaching at baseline from that container or from that plate, from that cup, into the food your child is eating. And what makes it worse is when you have heat and cleaning agents, because it increases that leaching of those chemicals out of the plastic. Number 3, don't use your plastic if it's etched or scratched. And so again, that really increases the chance of the chemicals migrating into the food your children are eating. Avoid plastics with the numbers 3, 6, and 7. We really try to say avoid all plastic, but if you have to use it, avoid 3, 6, and 7. Those are thermoplastics and certainly harmful to health and harmful to the planet. And then lastly, use glass or stainless steel to serve and store food. And so we think Ahimsa is a great option for that. And so that it kind of brings me to one of the plastic-free solutions for your holiday shopping is our mealtime kit. And so we have something called the Mindful Mealtime Kit. It comes really with a set of bowls and plates and cutlery and cups, and it's designed to really be the safest product out there. We do lots of aggressive testing from everything from no plastic in our packaging, not even microplastic, to lead-free, to every heavy metal. I'm a scientist by nature, so we test very aggressively. But then also gifting smart. We have got these wonderful mealtime should be a very immersive experience, because science shows that when you engage children in mealtime, they're more likely to eat, which is every parent's worry. And so we've got wonderful 7 activity mats, and it talks about all the different holidays celebrated throughout this holiday season, really allowing people to expand little palettes and little minds. And then it comes with our beautiful upcycled sari material. So I'm a parent. We wanted to make it really easy to gift wrap without having to have all that waste. And so you just get a free upcycled sari, and you just tie it up and gift it away. So that's at least one option. I know we'll talk about many, many more to be plastic free this holiday, because you know what? Our kids really deserve it. Thank you so much. I think that's my last slide, Dianna.
Thank you, Manasa. Well, okay, your presentation is so informative. I find what you're talking about and very much appreciate your experience and knowledge and background as a pediatrician. It's crucially important. So thank you. And of course, I like beautiful rainbow steel things too. I think they're gorgeous. So next, I'd like to welcome Alejandra Warren. Alejandra is an intersectional environmentalist working on diverse plastic reduction, resource conservation, and intersectional justice. And she's the co-founder of Plastic Free Future. Alejandra, it's so nice to have you back again. Welcome.
First of all, Manasa, thank you. It is so refreshing to have a pediatrician sharing her experience in this really big issue. So thank you for that. Okay, mindful holidays. I've been thinking about how to be a little bit more careful with the way we spend our holidays. So I'm really happy that I get to share a little bit of that with you here. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, since we don't have a lot of time to go deep into this, is the life cycle of gifts. I love this illustration by Story of Plastics, because every time I bring something into my home, it helps me think about where is it coming from and where is it going to end up. So my first advice for you is maybe save this screenshot and think about it every time you're going to purchase something for these holidays. What are the materials? Where was it made? Who made it? How long will I or the person I'm buying it for use it? How will it be disposed or thrown out? So you go to buy your groceries, and now when you're buying groceries, suddenly you find a bunch of stuff that you don't need in the supermarket, in Target, in Walmart, anywhere we go. A lot of beautiful, colorful, shiny items that they're going to try to push on you. They're super cute, they're super fun, they're super cheap. My kids are going to love them. Let's do it. Let's put them in the cart because they're cheap anyways, and they're going to make a really cute addition to the holidays. But when we go deeper to see what are the materials, they're definitely plastic, polyester. As you know, plastic has so many names for fabric, so be careful with that. Where was it made? Probably China. Who made it? Underpaid workers. How long will my child use them? Probably only during the holidays, and by next year, they're not going to be around anymore. How will it be disposed or thrown out? Unfortunately, landfill. And this is one of the main problems that we have. We think, oh, maybe somebody else can use them. Maybe we can donate them to Goodwill. But the reality is that they're going to end up in landfill at some point. So they're not that cute anymore, right? So when we're thinking about how are we going to find those gifts that we want to share, we look at the bottom, shop. That should be our very, very last option. Give local and give sustainable. But I really want you to be mindful with this last two, give local and sustainable, because there's a lot of greenwashing out there, lots of names, natural, organic, lots of things that they want us to make. They want to make us believe that they're cleaner and better for the environment because they know we care. At this point in history, 2022, everybody's slightly concerned about these issues. So there's a lot of greenwashing there. So how are we going to avoid this greenwashing? By going to way of thinking that is going to move us away from stuff. If we want to give something, one good option is give secondhand, give homemade, give the experiences, create new traditions, and be more present. Be present, easier said than done, right? But honestly, happiness is all about being present. And during the holidays, when we're spending time cooking, rushing to buy more gifts, running around in malls, do we really need all of this? What if we say no to all of those things and just slow down a little bit? I love this quote: the past is history, the future is a mystery, and the present is a gift. That's why they call it present. And if you watch Kung Fu Panda, maybe you are familiar with this one, because this is a quote also from Kung Fu Panda, but it's so true. When our kids are older, they're not going to remember how we upgraded their iPhones. They're probably going to remember the time we spent with them during the holidays. Create new traditions. When we put value in things other than objects, the possibilities are endless. We have the power to imagine a more mindful society that thrives on the awareness of our interconnections with ourselves and with the environment. Sustainable capitalism and green capitalism are not going to change the world. What is going to change the world is community, connections, relationships, and that's a really good opportunity that we have during the holidays when we have friends around, family around, and time to spend with our kids. But we all know that people like gifts. So yes, spending time together is nice. Creating traditions is nice. Doing puzzles together is nice. But kids want stuff sometimes, right? So how are we going to figure out that little part that is going to make us look like we're not terrible parents and we're not trying to steal Christmas from them? When my kids were little, I started to think, how can we give them something that they're going to appreciate that is not an object that is going to end up in our house? And we started to do this coupons and experiences since they were young for their birthdays and for parties. And it became a really huge success because the experiences that they go through with their family and friends, they actually remember those things. They become part of their childhood and their experiences. They're never going to remember about the little plasticky toy that you gave them, but they're going to remember that experience that they spent with you or with their family. So gift experiences, yoga classes, art lessons, music lessons, museum passes, Academy of Sciences passes, all of those are beautiful examples of how we can spend a few dollars or a few $100s in something that is actually going to develop their brains and help them know themselves better. Gift homemade is another beautiful way to do this. I feel like every single human has a talent. It could be art, it could be music, it could be sewing, baking. We all have talents, but we never have time to apply our talents. So what if we spend a little bit of time with the holidays, instead of going shopping and trying to run around Target to see what we can buy? What if we bake? What if we knit a scarf? What if we saw some beautiful gifts that people can use again? What if we give art a chance and we finally finish that watercolor that we wanted to finish and give it to someone we love? Imagine that object that is full of your energy, full of your mindfulness, full of your love, charged with all of your energy that you're going to pass to someone else. Isn't that more beautiful than anything we can buy at the store? And I know we all suffer about how to wrap our gifts when my husband is American. And when we used to have our first Christmases together, there was a pile of trash that honestly would depress me instead of getting me excited about the holidays. And that's why we just downsized everything, gifts, wrapping, but we still have gifts to wrap. So I really recommend you to explore furoshiki. If you don't know furoshiki, please Google it. It's a Japanese ancestral technique where you can wrap absolutely everything with fabric and you don't have to buy anything new. This is a really good exercise for a little game to play with your kids, how to cut a little square out of old t-shirts or old clothing, and how to learn how to do furoshiki with YouTube tutorials. So I'm gonna add that one to the chat later. And now for wrapping, We all have some of those papers from Whole Foods or whatever. Let's use those, make stamps with the kids. Maybe we can go foraging, pick up the little needles, the little leaves, learn the name of the species that are around our neighborhood. Gentle foraging, those little items that are gonna make our gifts look more beautiful. So this is a really good way to get you started with this. I know we can switch to no gifts at all. That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be successful, I promise you that. But little by little, we can start creating new traditions around reducing. And it's good for the planet, it's good for our kids, it's good for our mental health, it's good for our relationships with our family. So how about we introduce secondhand holidays this year? The only gifts that we're allowed are going to be secondhand. You can go to Goodwill, you can shop your closet, you can share with your friends, secondhand only. Experiences only, handmade only, edible gifts only, Secret Santa, only one person, only one gift. It's also called a white elephant, I think. And the only one that I don't recommend is skipping Christmas or the holidays. If you have watched Christmas with the Cranks, that's never a good idea. But the other 5 are a really good way to get you started reducing, using less, and having more mindful holidays. And I think that's my last slide.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alejandra. I was laughing. I was on mute. Yeah, I think experiential things are so wonderful. And I think you're right. Those are the things we remember from our childhood as well. But it's also nice to, if there's a thing that you really like, especially if it's a plastic-free thing. So I'm going to begin our Q&A section with both you and Manasa. And I wanted to ask you both a first question. I think, why don't I actually ask it of Alejandra first, because you just concluded your presentation. I wanted to ask you both, though, why do you feel it's so important to reduce our plastic footprint, not just for the holidays, but in our daily lives? So to you, Alejandra.
Yes, I can talk about that for many, many hours. But about the holidays, I see it like a really easy opportunity because that's the time of the year when we bring a lot of stuff from our home. And my concern is that it doesn't start with Christmas or the holidays, however you want to call it, or however you want to celebrate it, but it begins this week when we start getting messages for discounts, Black Friday, shop this, buy this. If they show you an item and they tell you it's 90% off, you're probably going to go for it. But a lot of those items are plastic. So we are increasing the amount of plastic materials that we're bringing into our homes. And like Manasa said, not all plastics are the same. And all plastics are toxic. We know that already. But some plastics are way more toxic than others. This is a really big problem of environmental justice too, because parents from underserved communities want to give their children lots of little things because we tell them that the more stuff we have, the better. Right? So what they do is they go to the Dollar Tree and they go to places where they buy low quality plastics that kids, as all kids do, and pediatricians know this really well, they experience their life through their senses. So they're going to grab them, they're going to lick them, they're going to put them in their mouths, they're going to brush them against their cheek. All those plastics are entering, and the toxins are entering the bodies of our children. So this is a really good opportunity to open our eyes and say, maybe I should be careful with the kind of stuff that I'm bringing into my family, into my home. Through the holidays, more mindful shopping is a good way to reduce that amount of plastic, toxic plastic that we're bringing to our homes.
Yeah. Manasa?
Yes, as a pediatrician, I always have to think about kind of the long-term health of children. I think when we think about plastic, I always say this, but people and the planet are connected, and the lasting impact between the two will not be felt by us, but by our children and their children's children and their children. And so using really less plastic is important, obviously, for the planet and for the future, for our children to live on, but also for their future health. This is one of the first generations in the history of mankind to have an average expected life expectancy that is lower than the generation before them, than their parents. And that should be enough for all of us to say, this is a really big problem, and we haven't done justice to the children who we serve. And so for me, setting these examples is important, not just to fix the problem, but to also set an example for the generation ahead of us. And so I loved, Alejandra's message of reducing, reusing experiences, gifting in a different way, because when you teach children these early concepts, whether that's healthy habits or reusables, they get it. Like, that's why I love being a pediatrician. Kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. And so when you show these kind of behaviors and value those kind of behaviors, guess what? That's what they value. And it is much easier to change behavior, believe it or not, of a 6-year-old than a 60-year-old. It may not feel like that at times in those parenting moments. And so I think that's why it's so important, because sometimes it feels like it's this really big problem that we can't solve for, but it's a really big problem that if we all make little changes and we all do it, can actually resolve in a really big impact and result in a really big impact.
Yeah, and I also think that our ethics are changing so fast. What seems right in this time in history is not going to be what is right and ethical in 20 years for our children. When our children look ahead 20 years and they see the devastation that the planet is suffering, and they look at our Christmas and the pile of trash we made, they're going to judge us in a different way. So I think it's our responsibility to be ethical in our decisions right now, so our kids can judge us with those decisions in the present.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, as a pediatrician, remember, children can't advocate for themselves, right? So they don't have jobs to contribute to the economy, and they don't have jobs to have the purchasing power to buy the right kind of gifts. They don't have voting rights to vote on things. And so it is our job as adults in the room to fix it.
Yeah, I hear both of you so much. I have so many things I want to talk about, and I too can talk about this for a long time. So I want to look to your expertise, but what would you recommend? Sorry, this kind of builds off the other question, but what are some key things, or give us maybe even just one, doable example of how we remove plastic and single-use plastic from child rearing?
I can go on just a few kind of evidence-based ones, because I think a lot of people think about products for children. It has to be bright and fancy and electronic and this, and that's how kids interact with the world. And actually, it's the opposite. So just developmentally, plastic-free is developmentally kind of the best thing. So a lot of what Alejandra had kind of pointed to, really, truly, American Academy of Pediatrics recommends choosing gifts that, foster interaction between caregivers and children, that are not overstimulating, that encourage mental and physical activity and inspire your child's imagination, and build habits. So symbolic and pretend play, just, using wooden, I love, some of the wooden cutting sets out there where the kids can pretend to be cutting the wooden food, or, for example, fine motor and adaptive. So simple things, just wooden blocks, puzzles. Those are really simple and fun. And we had talked about, I think in your presentation, art and that love of imagination. And so I think a lot of times what people think about is stuff, but really what grows and develops a child the most is that interaction. And so if we can have battery-free, electronic-free, back to the basics. And I think a lot of parents will tell you, especially for those young ones, you may package up a gift, they open up that gift, and then they play with the cardboard box. And that is like a perfect example of why they don't need the stuff. They just need attention, and they experience the world through interaction with humans. And that is something that's very important that we really pay attention to in this generation.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking a lot about children and kids, but I want everyone here to know that we need to take care of ourselves too. We deserve this healthy experience for ourselves. We deserve to have less plastics in our lives for ourselves. We deserve to spend the mindful holidays for ourselves, to spend time with our family, to grow our community, and just to focus on the things that are really going to change the planet at some point. Again, stuff is not going to fix anything. It's our relationships with each other that is going to make the change we need to see.
Yeah, you both are making me think too about nature and getting out in nature during the holidays, from skiing or snowboarding or going on a hike or a walk with your family, or I don't know, things as simple as going to the park or walking along a creek or whatever it is you have access to where you are. I wanted to ask you both if you had suggestions or recommendations about how to get in nature plastic free.
Oh, mine is easy. I mean, literally just go outside and play. Like, because I think I think a lot of people overcomplicate how we should be doing things for our families. And that is a result of kind of modern parenting and the age of the internet and everyone really trying to do the best for their kids, and kind of forgetting that, as you said, a family bike ride as a tradition, even around the holidays, maybe it is a little family bike ride that you do every Thanksgiving, or just literally playing outside on a swing set is the most that you can do in terms of physical activity and development for gross motor skills for children, is just simple play. And in fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics now prescribes play, like literally a prescription for play, especially outdoors, because there's so much true health benefits to just playing outside.
And going back to my comment about capitalism and consumerism not being the solution, really often we see how we have to buy these boots and this backpack and this jacket and this water bottle. You need to look like this to get in the outdoors. And that's been keeping a lot of BIPOC communities outside of the outdoor world, because we think we need stuff to get out there when we don't need anything. Our ancestors were there barefoot with absolutely nothing by themselves and their true experience and connection with nature. You don't need anything to get out there. You just need the positive spirit of engaging with nature. And talking about what I was saying about foraging for gifts, kids know so many brands. They know Nike and they know Adidas and they know Apple, but go outside and point out at a tree and ask them, what tree is that? Sometimes they don't even know what tree is in their neighborhood, what tree is in front of their house, what tree is in their backyard. They don't know that. So this is also going to help us connect again with nature, right? So yeah, no excuses. Let's just get out there and make it an activity and an experience that is going to be maybe the same one every holiday. What we do a lot, because kids need fun and kids need to feel like their feelings are acknowledged, and adults too. You can make it, if you celebrate Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Christmas, just make themes about it. We do put the carrot in the snowman instead of the donkey, the tail of the donkey. We do things like that, charades with Christmas themes, maybe a scavenger hunt with Christmas things. So you just have to be creative, and it's more fun for you too, instead of shopping again. So spend that time that you usually spend shopping, being creative and playful and engaging with people that deserve your time.
And a quick plug, Dianna, for if you are outdoors and you need reusable non-plastic food containers, we do have a line of what we call movable meals, because when you're outside and on that hike or whatnot and your kid gets hungry, you don't need to use all those plastic Ziploc bags. And we've got just like metal containers that you can use, pop in your hiking bag, and then throw it, back in the sink. So.
Well, I noticed even on your special Christmas things that you're making available to people through Ahimsa, you're also using this furoshiki technique with the upcycled sari fabric. So I wanted to take us somewhere else, but you're using those for your gifts, and I think it's incredibly beautiful. So I just want to acknowledge that. I find that we're actually really talking about kids and kids' experience here. And it's so important. I'm doing a plug just as we acknowledged prior to starting the webinar, that I was trying to be festive, so I put on a vintage kind of holiday blouse that I got from a secondhand store at Bonnaroo Arts and Music Festival when I was there and needed something a little more fun to wear one evening. And it was really cool. It wasn't a shop. It was a shop where you could trade something for something else. So I traded a sweater or something else that I had for this top. I'm a big fan of, reuse and refill. And I was wondering if each of you would like to talk to that for a moment from the perspective that you're working. So I would go actually first to you, Alejandra, with your work with Plastic Free Future.
Yeah, reuse and refill, again, they're not anything new. In the next few years, you're going to be hearing everything about reuse and refill. But I just want to remind people that our ancestors did it for thousands of years before plastic came along. We survived in a really beautiful way without plastics until they pushed plastics into us and they told us that everything had to be plastics. Now, there's a really big problem that even during the pandemic, the plastic industry told us that plastics were cleaner, healthier, and better for us. And that was not true. They really did a good job convincing people that plastics were better. And people started to distrust reusables and refill systems. But please, I can tell you right now, if you are not sure, please let me know. I can email you the data, scientific data, because we do believe in science, saying that bulk and refill shops are safe, reusables are safe, refill shops are safe. So please, a really good idea that actually wasn't my idea. Somebody gave me a beautiful soup. They were layers of beans, chickpeas, lentils. It looks so colorful and magical with a tiny little recipe. It told me this was my grandma's recipe, and that was my Christmas gift last year. And that was all from a refill shop. So refill and reuse have a space in the holidays if we're creative and we open a space for options and creativity again. It doesn't have to be pick up quick and make a pile of toys. It implies a little bit of patience. And I think we all need patience, slowing down and being a little bit more mindful. That's good for all of us. So let's try to practice it little by little. But yeah, refill shops are going to be key. We have a map in our website. It's called the Reuse Map, where you can find the bulk shops near you. We're going global, so if you're not in the United States, there are options there too. But if you are not familiar with your bulk shop, I encourage you to look it up and just support your bulk shop near you.
That's great. Manasa?
Yeah, I love that. I deal a lot with really that reduce and reuse at mealtime, and kind of laser focusing on that because it's such a perfect spot to teach children, but then also implement those learnings as parents. And so everything from buying bulk, I think those are the things that you teach your children. Literally just the act of filling up at a store as opposed to continuously buying packages and then throwing them out. That really is something that's so impactful for a child to watch, because remember, that's their baseline. Everyone asks me, oh, how are your children such healthy eaters? And do they know about the planet? And it's like, well, because they don't know any better. Like this is what they know. And so I think that shows just the resiliency of these children learning those kind of practices and those principles. We have a cafeteria line, for example, and it's all stainless steel, and we use it in school cafeterias. And immediately what we're seeing is behavioral change in the children. They are immediately sorting their food better. They're immediately understanding that concept of, oh, I don't actually use this thing for 20 minutes and throw it away. I use it over and over and over. And those are really impactful things. They sound like small little things, but once you are really changing the way you behave, you're impacting so much more than just you. You're impacting lots of little ones who are watching you.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that too. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and we brought our lunch to school in a reusable, in a lunchbox. I think there are vintage lunch boxes. There are new versions. There are soft versions of them. There are insulated versions. I mean, we're only limited by, in a way, our own imagination. And I'm seeing in the last 5-6 years, we co-founded Plastic Pollution Coalition back in 2009, but I've seen a big upswing at larger shops, the Targets, the Bed Baths and Beyonds, the Costco's, of offering reusables and refillables to people, and reusable containers for lunch as well. I've seen soft ones. I actually bought one at Trader Joe's that was really cool. That looks like a lunch bag, but it's made out of a more durable kind of soft, like a hard paper material, and you can use it and it's insulated. So I love stuff like that. I love these kinds of solutions. I have a question from our attendees that is for you guys. It is, how can we encourage our sports teams that our children are involved with, so sports for kids, to stop using these single-use juice packs, multi-layered Tetra Pak single-use straws, single-use plastic water bottles. And the attendee who asked this question was also curious, are pediatricians now sharing this message about the negative impact of plastics on annual visits?
It's actually such a great question, because that is what we're currently working on. So if you really look at environmental, this field called pediatric environmental health, or just environmental health medicine, it is kind of a newer emerging field of medicine. So historically, for example, I was never trained in this. And I'm a assistant professor at the largest medical school in the country, at Indiana University. And this is not part of our curriculum. So I think that shows the gap between the importance of environmental health medicine and the lag in even the education of clinicians, because you're right, you do need to hear this from your pediatrician. And so the good news is, by the AAP coming out with this big policy statement, and actually I'm happy to announce that one of their big initiatives for 2023 is environmental health medicine. And so my goal as a pediatrician, even aside from Ahimsa, is to make this truly anticipatory guidance, what we kind of call this kind of counseling for parents at each of those visits that you normally hear us give the spiel, that this should be one of them. And we are hearing from clinicians that more and more people are asking about plastics impact, and particularly the ones that are seeing the impact. So for example, children with type 2 diabetes, or premature puberty, or ADHD, a lot of these things are linked with plastic. Then those conversations are coming up. But half of my job as a pediatrician is to make children healthy when they're sick. But the other half of my job is to keep them healthy in the first place. And so that I'm really, really hopeful that kind of counseling will be happening in your pediatrician offices in the near future.
And so that makes me think that we would really be thankful, all parents and aunties in the world, if you have like a little card that we can give people with your name, saying, hey, these are the bullet points that Dr. Manasa is sharing with us. She's a pediatrician. Because, sometimes we are seeing like the tree hugger, the granola girl, the environmentalist, but we need more people like you.
Yes, and we do have an evidence page on our website on purpose, and we just actually presented at the American Academy of Pediatrics National Conference, and I talked to pediatrician after pediatrician after pediatrician who know about it but don't know about it in depth, and eyes wide open. So I'm very excited to kind of help lead the charge. And I think Dr. Tresande has worked with you in the past too. Dianna, he's been instrumental. And so certainly I think that's what we're trying to do, is get the education. Like, I sell products, but I really sell education and science. And so the products just happen to be a really great vehicle for passing on knowledge. And so when you serve, I always say that Ahimsa is a public health mission. We just serve it on shiny rainbow plates and everyone's listening. So I'm like, well, while I have you, let's talk about all the other things.
Yeah, and also for grownups. I was in my doctor's office last week and I asked, hi, doctor, are you getting a lot of information regarding endocrine disruption related to plastics? And she said, no, tell me about it. Like, you are
typically,
the doctor. You
typically
should
what
be telling me
you'll
about it.
typically what you'll see is two subspecialties that really talk about it with their patients because they are really seeing the end effects: endocrinologists and OBGYNs, because they're seeing infertility and they're seeing all sorts of hormone disruption kind of end results. Those are the doctors that tend to be more up to speed because they're kind of seeing this connection between plastic use and it's real science. It's not just a connection. It's evidence-based medicine. And so I guess I would say there's a skewed knowledge towards these two subspecialists because they're dealing with that actively. So pregnant women, people dealing with infertility, and then any sort of hormone conditions. So that's why you're seeing it there, and less so your general doctors, your general pediatricians. But that knowledge gap must be filled.
Yeah, and going back to the holidays, we should be really careful with the kind of stuff we're buying for ourselves as adults, because a lot of stuff is made out of plastic. I mean, over 80% of the items we buy are made out of plastic. If we can buy wool or organic cotton or things that are natural fibers and cleaner, we are reducing the chances of us absorbing through our skin and through exposure. Also, plastic sheds more when they're new. So if you're buying that brand new Patagonia that is so sustainable, don't get me started with Patagonia. But that brand new Patagonia jacket is putting a lot of microfibers in the air when you're drying it and washing it, in your skin. So when you're buying secondhand, you're also reducing the chances of bringing microfibers of plastic to your home. So if you have, let's say, a party in your office and everybody has to bring a gift, just suggest to your office, hey, what if we all bring a secondhand gift? Find something, shop your closet and bring it here. You can be the crazy environmental in your office, start a new tradition, and everyone's gonna celebrate how awesome you are for saving the environment during your holiday party.
I love all of these ideas and I want to continue this conversation, but we're basically at the end of our time. So I want to thank you both so much for all of these ideas and ways to celebrate the holidays with or without physical gifts. And obviously, I'm just really grateful to both of you for the work that you're doing. It's so, so important. So thank you, Alejandra. Thank you, Manasa. And I just want to say to everybody, if you do choose to shop for physical gifts, Plastic Pollution Coalition has a gift for all of you who are joining us today. We're very proud to launch our 2022 Plastic-Free Holiday Guide, which is available starting today. And it's free. We're sharing the link to sign up for the guide in the chat now, if you'd like to sign up for it. The Plastic-Free Holiday Guide features a wide range of eco-friendly products from Plastic Pollution Coalition business members who are committed to stopping plastic pollution, including Ahimsa. Please enjoy the discount codes. They're up to 30%, and support plastic-free giving by signing up to access the guide. Please feel free to share the form to sign up with your friends, family, and colleagues. I want to thank you both again for joining us today and providing so much useful information for keeping plastic out of our holidays and out of our lives in general. And thank you to you, our audience, for attending, for submitting your questions, and for staying engaged with our global webinar series for another year. I'd like to just let you know that this is our last webinar of 2022, but we'll be back on January 12th, 2023. So save the date for a brand new discussion and webinar focusing on microplastic fibers from textiles and clothing. So please save the date. We look forward to seeing you all again next year. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our global coalition. It's currently free to join. You can join as an individual, a business, or as an organization. Again, please connect with us as well on social media to learn more about our work. And we will also be sending out a follow-up survey and would appreciate your feedback to help us continue to improve these webinars. Thanks again to everyone for joining. Thanks also to our Plastic Pollution Coalition member groups and partners who shared this webinar with their communities and networks. And thanks to our Plastic Pollution Coalition team behind the scenes who helped make this webinar possible. We look forward to seeing you all at our next webinar on January 12th in the new year, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.